Yeah. Okay, so this is class number 5, I think, in kettuבות, maybe number 4, I don't know. Now, what we're going to do today is we are going to finish up the part that we were reading, namely the final thoughts of Rava, at least in this first version of Rava, which says that en ones or en ta'anat ones begitin. We're going to finish that up, and in that context, we're going to be discussing a very important topic, which is the topic of annulment of the kiddushin. Right? It's an important topic because one of the issues that comes up in the modern day context is the people who are refusing to get, and it's been a hot topic, on and off hot topic in the community, and it's a problem in Am Yisrael. And one of the solutions my father used to propose is the Gemara that we're going to be studying today. So let's start on the Gemara. I think let's just get right started. We can start it in the bottom of page, again, Daf Bet, Amud Bet, on the bottom. We studied the story, and we explained, okay, 3 lines from the bottom, right? So, Ella Rava, Sevara denafsheh ka'ama gezera mishum senuot, ugzera mishum perusot. So the conclusion that the Gemara, or that the Yeshiva reaches, is that Rava, when he made the rule, en ta'anat ones begitin, he could have relied on the various sources, but he didn't, because he wanted to make this as a absolute gezerah, right? So, and the reason for the gezerah is mishum senuot and mishum perusot. So I want to explain, what does the word perusot mean? What does the word senuot mean? And it's important to understand that sometimes we have words in Hebrew, and the words in Hebrew, the way you can sit, if you want to sit next to me here, you can also sit next to me here. Yeah, as you wish. The words in Hebrew, they have a slightly, in modern Hebrew, they have a slightly different meaning than in Talmudic Hebrew. For example, you have the word hasid. So we see the word hasid, you think of a person who's dressed with Eastern European clothing in the winter, and that makes the person a hasid. But the hasid, as used in the modern day context, is nothing to do with the hasid as used in the days of the Gemara. I mean, it's the same sounding, same sounds, but it's a different concept. So also senuot and perusot. In the context of the Chachamim, a woman is senu'ah, is somebody who's timid, somebody who's cautious, right? And a woman who's perusa, it doesn't say rish'iyot, or evil woman, or wicked woman, or ra'ot, shara'ah. It says perusot. Perusa is somebody who's a confident, and because she's confident, she's not requiring shelter. She doesn't need protection. Therefore, she's confident, and she's going out aggressively, right? She doesn't need somebody to protect her or to tell her what to do. So that's the idea of senuot and perusot. So we have Ela Amar Rava Sevara denafsheh ka'amar. Now, what does the word sevara mean? Sevara means, you can answer the door. Sevara means, people think sevara, svara means logic. Svara doesn't mean logic. Sevara, I mean, again, I'm talking about in the context of the Talmud. The word sevara in the context of the Talmud means a subjective, individual opinion which has no source, right? So because there are no sources, the only thing you're left with is a subjective opinion, right? So that's subjective. Shalom Aleichem. You have a book?
I was going to look on my phone.
Okay, well, we have an extra book here if you want. Shalom. Here, give him this one, and you can hear, just follow it. You'll have 2 hands. Right. So svara, or sevara is different than svara. So sevara means there's no source. We don't have a source for this. So sevara denafsheh ka'amar means this is a subjective opinion. Well, why did he reach this opinion? Gezerah mishum senuot, and the word gezerah is, we explained last week why it's so important. Gezerah mishum senuot, ugzerah mishum perusot, mishum senuot, dei amar lali beged. If you would say if you would say yesh ta'anat ones begitin, right? Let's say that was the conclusion. The conclusion is yesh ta'anat ones begitin, and therefore the husband can say, oh, I was anus, I tried to come, the river stopped me, I wanted to come, but I didn't make it on time, right? So what's going to happen in her mind? If you're going to say the get is not a get because again he was anus. It's true that the condition was reached, meaning he didn't come within 12 months, and we're saying no, but he was anus, and therefore the get is not a get. Zinin de la anis. What's going to happen is there's going to be situations where he really wasn't anus. He was just late. There was no honest. He didn't come in 12 months. Usvara de anis. Now really the condition of the get was reached. He didn't arrive in 12 months. Shalom Aleichem. We have an extra one, by the way. Let's give it. Let me give you. I believe. Wait. Let me. Yeah. If you go all the way to the bottom, left. I believe is that volume 1. What does it say? That's.
It's volume 2.
Oh no, it's not going to be there. Okay. So Mehila, I didn't bring anything else from the keys. But you can share. Oh, they have volume 2 there. Okay. The second one there. Okay. So the point is that she's going to be saying, okay, he told me if he doesn't come within 12 months, it's a get, and he didn't come within 12 months, but you know what? Maybe he was anus. Maybe the reason he didn't come within 12 months, maybe he was anus. So she's going to, and if he was anus, and we say yesh ta'anat ones begitin, then that means the get is not a get. And I don't want to get married. Bar minan, the children could be mamzerim, right? So that's why mishum senuot, Rava reaches a conclusion, and ta'anat ones begitin. That's mishum senuot. And also usvara de anis. Besavra. So besavra means, and this woman who's a senuah, she's timid, she's cautious, she's says he was anus. Umi'gena, and she's going to make herself an aguna. De yatva, and she's going to stay in her situation, meaning she's not going to get married, right? She makes herself an aguna. You notice this? She has umi'gena v'yata. She doesn't have to be aguna
because she's worried he might come back.
But she's worried he might come back,
and her kids will be.
And he's going to say, "I was anus. Why'd you get married? The get is not a get." How the heck am I supposed to know the get is not a get? I was waiting for you. You said 12 months. You didn't come in 12 months. Well, but the halacha is yesh ta'anat ones begitin. That would be that. So she's going to be afraid of that possibility. So that's a senuah. Senuah means a woman who's timid. Right. She's a little more cautious, right? Umishum perusot. All right. What about perusot? And again, here today, like in the modern context, if you somebody, a woman, I don't know, something, and you see her elbow, like prutza, like you spit. So in the Gemara, it wasn't necessarily like that. The word perutza, again, in the Gemara means a woman who's a little confident in herself. She's a little more outgoing, confident, aggressive, right? So what's the problem with the perusa? Umishum perusot. The problem with the perusot is as follows. Let's say again, you say that the get is not a get, meaning yesh ta'anat ones begitin, right? He said he's going to come in 12 months. He didn't come in 12 months, but he didn't come in 12 months because he was anus, and therefore the get is not a get. Zimin de anis. There's going to be situations where he was anus, and the get is not a get. There's a missing word here. I'm adding the word from the Ketav Yad. Vesavra ve'amra. In her mind, she's making the following conclusion. La'anis. He told me, I'm coming in 12 months. After 12 months, sayonara. Marry whoever you want. The get is a get. But he was really anus. Now this woman is confident. Husband told me I can get married, right? I got to get. 12 months passed. Good, I'm going out, having a party. Ve'azla umin seva. She's going to go out and get married. Right? V'nimsa get batel. Now what's going to happen is, No, you heard the ringing from the thing. No, nobody's ringing on the door. Yeah. Ve'azla umin seva. V'nimsa get batil. Now it comes out, so she was waiting for 12 months. She did the right thing. She's a little overly confident, but she's right. Get was, she doesn't know if the guy was anus. He was anus. And if you say yesh ta'anat ones begitin, she got married in bar minan, banei mamzerim. And mamzer is le'olam. It never, the taint of mamzerut never goes away. There's a way to make it go away, but but ממזל לעולם. לא יבוא ממזל בקהל השם עד עולם, right? Okay, so that's it. So now you understand the idea of Rava. So Rava wanted to make an absolute clear-cut rule. En ta'anat ones begitin, period. So now the woman, she sees 12 months passed. She doesn't say, maybe he was anus. No, she doesn't have to say that. 12 months passed, go get married. Up to you. End of story. You understand? Very simple, very clear-cut rule.
Rava made it for a more logical reason. And he didn't make it based on the text. He made it for a logical reason, and he's just finding support in the text.
As you can tell, I don't like the word logic. I would say...
I am saying, but it seems like he did it more as a svara.
He had a policy behind his thinking. The policy is that he's concerned. He sees human psychology. He's going to see situations where the perusa will get hurt. He sees situations where the senuah would get hurt. And for this policy reason, he decided, let's make a clear-cut rule, and ta'anat ones begitin, and nobody has to worry one way or the other.
But aren't you usually were against this sort of like, I feel it should be this way, so it's...
Correct. But as I said, and this is right before you walked in, so I'm not blaming you, the word sevara means there is no source. And because there is no source, I'm going to give you my opinion. That's what the word sevara means in the Talmudic thing. So sevara, exactly correct. Yeah, no source. And we say it, and we're not embarrassed. I mean, listen, there are cases where you have to make a rule. When the Mashiach comes and they have a betin, they have to decide, do we have light, electricity on Yom Tov or no? It's up to them. Maybe I like their answer, maybe I don't like their answer. But really, maybe a type of sevara, maybe is electricity fire? Let's say they reach a conclusion that electricity is not molidesh. Let's say, or mosiesh. So then they'll have to use sevara. So it could be some things we need sevara. What happens with the robot? Hey, I have a good question.
By default, it would be like
I have a great question. In
right?
a few years, you're going to have robots in people's houses. Okay, the robot doesn't have to be Shomer Shabbos. Now, if the robot was a goy, I can't tell the goy.
Well, if you buy the kosher robot, it'll be Shomer Shabbos. Right?
So if the robot was, if I had a goy in the house, I can't tell the goy to do melacha. Okay, Amida la goy is asur. Okay, now the robot, what is it? I'm speaking to the robot. Is speaking to the robot, make me sawili finjan achwe. Tell the robot, make me a cup of finjan. Can I do that on Shabbat? You say no. It's a type of gerama because you're talking. Is gorem is I don't. They're gonna have to figure this one out, right? Maybe they say, oh, it's not gerama. Talking is gerama. Gerama is when you do something physical with your hand. I'm just talking, right? And talking is not even a maaseh. Right? So what are you going to do? So that you're going to need to use sevara to figure it out. In my humble opinion, maybe it's not sevara. Maybe they'll find the source. I don't know. Rava created a golem on Masechet Sanhedrin. I don't know. But the point is, you understand. There are things you need sevara.
By default, it would follow Nisu'in where you have Tanat Ones. Right? So you have to go out of your way to change.
Well, not necessarily, because it's too... I understand what you're saying. But okay, fair enough.
We already said yesh ones b'nisuin.
We're comparing it.
So
we're comparing it. We are. Okay. Very good. So now, right. So let's continue. Okay. So now the Gemara asks a question, and this is real. What we're doing now is mamash. This is very important, and this is going to be poteh shanim b'tvuna. Okay. At many different levels. The Gemara asks a question against this sevara of Rava. Umi ikamidi temidi oraita lahave. I'm reading the Ktav Yad says lahave. Again, umi ikamidi temidi oraita lahave. Umishum senuot umishum perusot sharenan eshet ish le'alma. Okay, it doesn't make sense that you have a situation where mideoraita, it's not a get. Let's say mideoraita, yesh ta'anat ones. Let's say deoraita, yesh ta'anat ones. So it comes out that the get is not a get. Deoraita, right? And comes Rava and says, no, en ta'anat ones. So it comes out that mideoraita, yesh ta'anat ones. And hatenai nitkayem, let's say he didn't come back within 12 months, right? And the get according to the Oraita, Yesh Tanat Onetz, and therefore the get is not a get because he was Anus, he couldn't pass the river. So he was Anus, he couldn't pass the river. The Oraita, Lali get. If the Oraita is not a get, now she gets married. The children of Mamzerim. Why did you get married? You didn't get a get. Oh, I did get a get. No, but the get, the guy was Anus. What do you mean the guy was Anus? He said after 12 months. Oh, yeah, he said after 12 months, but he was Anus. He wanted to get there within 12 months, and he would have gotten there within 12 months, but it ended up that he was stuck by a flash flood, a river, global warming. Okay, global warming. Okay, so flash flood. I believe that by 2012, the east coast of the United States is going to be underwater. I believe that's what we were told. Global warming. Okay, so the flash flood river, and it's going to be, he was Anus. So he was Anus, and therefore, the get is not a get, the Oraita, but comes to Rabbi and says, no, the get is a get. So let's look at this. The Oraita, she got married, Banei Mamzerim, but the Rabbanan, Banei Mamzerim, the get was a get. How can you say that? Doesn't make any sense. Meaning,
It's too complicated.
The Rava can't come and say that it's not, that Entanat Orange Bigitin, therefore the get is a get. He can't say that. The Oraita law, you can't ignore the Oraita law. No, we're overriding the Oraita law. Right? They have this thing, I don't know why, I don't know where this craziness came from. I'm not even sure why, like it's so important. Like, somebody said we shouldn't, in Yemot HaMashiach, we're not going to put on tefillin. Like, why? Like, why not? Like, ma'inyan tefillin, Yemot HaMashiach, I don't understand, like, what, if there was a movement that said in Yemot HaMashiach we're not going to put on tefillin, it would be like tamua, like, why? So they have this craziness, Yemot HaMashiach there's going to be no korbanot. So, but the whole, in the Chumash, I don't know how many misvot you have. Tariag misvot. It's going to be, I don't know. Instead of Tariag misvot, it's going to be Shariag misvot. I don't know what. I mean, what happened to Sefer Vayikra? We don't have to read Sefer Vayikra anymore. Get rid of Sefer Vayikra. But like, it's Tamua. Why are people so against korbanot? Like, it's just, do you eat steak? Yes, I eat steak. But korban, that's cruelty to animals. Okay, again, it's Tamua and you don't mevin. But the point is, how can you say that? You have no right to be mevatel the laws de oraita. You can't be mevatel the law de oraita. The Chachamim can maybe explain the law. They can give some details on it. Can't be mevatlim de oraita law. You understand? All right. So let's read it. Umi ikamidid. So that's a question. You understand the question of the Gemara? How can you say that the oraita la haderet, but the Rabbanan mishum selon mishum perusot shalen eshet ish le'ama? You're telling the woman she's really an eshet ish, but you tell them no, the get is good. Go, get married. So the answer is in. Kol HaMekadesh Adata de Rabbanan Mekadesh. Ve'afkerin hu Rabbanan lekedushin min. Actually, delete the word minne. Ve'afkerin Rabbanan lekedushin. Okay, let me read that again. In Kol HaMekadesh Adata de Rabbanan Mekadesh. Ve'afkerin hu Rabbanan lekedushin. All right. Now, so he says, yes, we could have that. How? Because when a person makes kiddushin, the kiddushin is adata de rabbanan. It's done subject to the consent or to the approval of the hachamim. Right? Adata de rabbanan mekadesh. So when he says hareat mekudesh li, that statement hareat mekudesh li makes her an eshet ish. At this point, from the moment the guy says hareat mekudesh li, betabazu, betabeazeh, right? She's automatically now mekudeshet. If Ban Minan, somebody has relations with this woman, there was no nisuin, there was only kiddushin, right? But the kiddushin makes her an eshet ish, right? The difference between kiddushin and nisuin, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I think that if a person is with isha mekudeshet, it's sekila. If a person is with isha nifnesa lachupa, it's henek. I think that's.
It's more for kiddushin.
Yeah, meaning in that case it's sekila, and I have to check it up. In other cases it's hanek, but there's no difference. Meaning the point is she's eshet ish lechol davar. That's the point I'm trying to make. So she is eshet ish lechol davar, and we're saying, but the original kiddushin is adata terabanan, subject to the consent of the hachamim. What do you mean subject to the consent? Meaning, so the afkirin hu rabbanan lekiddushin. And the Chachamim are absolving, I'll explain in a moment what that means, the Kiddushin. So, going back to the question, how can the Rabbah do that? The answer is the Rabbah can do that because we have the authority to annul the original kiddushin, and if we annul the original kiddushin, for example, I Rabba am annulling the original kiddushin because I want to say that en tanat onis bevitin. He wants to say yesh tanat onis begitin, and he's saying since yesh tanat onis begitin she's eshet ish. I say okay, no problem. So I'm going to be mafkia the original kiddushin, and she's not eshet ish because I annul the original kiddushin. If I annul the original kiddushin, then nisuin was not a nisuin, and therefore she's not eshet ish, and she can marry whoever what she
She was
wants
never
to
married
marry.
to the first guy.
What?
She was never married to the
first guy. Exactly. She was never married to the first guy. We annulled it lemafreya. Now, let's look at
There don't need a
Rashi.
justification to do that.
So that's what we're studying. Exactly. That's the topic for today. Get me my magnifying glass, Shalomo. It should be in the other table, I believe, if you can find it. Or maybe it's not. Is it there? It's right here. It's right here.
Here?
Oh, no. All right, use that one. That's magnifying glass. It's zechut. All right, and get me a cup of water.
Rabbi, I just want to make sure I understand this point
Yes,
with
please.
full clarity.
Yes.
So are we saying that the rabbis who authorized the nisuin, because the kiddushin, they have the authority to annul that same kiddushin? Are we saying that it's the rabbis, or are we saying that because the nisuin was done under the doctrine or the procedures prescribed by the hachamim, then because you did it through that procedure, then it can be annulled. Meaning you don't need to have an actual rabbi, like an actual, is it about the rabbi or is it about?
So first of all, it's about the betin. Let's talk about the
Bet-
betin. We're
right.
saying betin gadol, number one.
Beit Din HaGadol.
Oh, let's say
Right.
betin gadol for now. For purposes of this discussion, let's just say betin gadol. Thank you very much. So now we're going to study that. We're going to see how can the hachamim or the betin, how can the hachamim annul the kiddushin? You're asking what is the basis? How is that working? What is the mechanism? If I understand you correctly.
Right.
Right? Once you annul the kiddushin, there is no nisuin. That you understand. The
Right.
Nisuin, to be maknis nishala chuppah, hu atalo kiddashta, is a meaningless thing. Right? Has no legal standing. So once you annul the kiddushin, there is no nisuin. And then she was never an eshet ish.
Right.
And now she can go and marry whoever she wants to marry. Right? But we're going to study this now. Let's look at Rashi.
So the quick summary is basically the question is, how can Rava do this? Because he's going to create this whole big complication. And the solution is, well, not to worry. We can always go back and annul the first kiddushin, so there is no complication.
Exactly.
Here.
How do we solve the problem? By annulling the kiddushin. Now I want to deal with, look at Rashi. Chol hamkadesh isha, right? Al da'at she'inhigu chachmei Yisrael be'Yisrael hu shemekadesha, sheyu kaimin kiddushin לפי דברי חכמים, ויהיו בטלים לפי דברי חכמים, על ידי קיטין שיכשירו חכמים. Okay, and then it says, "V'apkehu arabanan kiddushin." Now that's what I wanted to. No, where does he say this, Mechila? I don't see where he says it. He says, maybe it wasn't Rashi. I think it was. Chacham Aharon. Do you remember whether Rashi is the one who brings the thing of Hefker Betin Hefker? I thought it was Rashi, but maybe it was the Rishonim.
Yes, I think so. Because he changes it to Ve'afkerin. His Girsha was Ve'afkerinu, or he explains it as if it's written Ve'afkerinu.
Yeah, but I see. Okay, so let me explain to you the standard explanation. Thank you. Let me explain to you the standard explanation given by all the Rishonim. And then after I give you the standard explanation, I will give you a slightly different explanation, or a very different explanation. Let's start with the standard explanation. The standard explanation is that there is the authority. There's a special authority of Hachamim, which says as follows: Hefker bedin hefker. Okay, Hefker bedin hefker means that the Hachamim have the right to annul the property ownership of a particular individual and make that property, even though it's Reuven owns the property, they can be mafkirim the property of Reuven. That's called Hefker bedin hefker. Right? All right. So the theory proposed by most of the Rishonim, I mean, let me see if I can see the Tosafot here, because I didn't look at the Tosafot, I didn't look at Rashi. Okay, but we'll see in a moment. We're going to read this in a more organized fashion. Okay, so the idea is like this. Since the Hachamim could be mafkirim the property of a person, the original kesef that was used by the husband to say to the wife, Hareat mikudeshet li, the bedin can be mafkir that money lemafrea, and say, you don't know it, you don't own the money. It wasn't yours. And because the money wasn't yours, you were mekadesh in Isha, and she received the kiddushin, but it wasn't your money. So the kiddushin is not a kiddushin. That's the theory. That's the theory that's given by the French rabbis and by most of the Rishonim in explaining the sugya that afkirinu rabbanan kiddushin mineh means milashon hefker. Afkirinu is really hifkiru et kesef kiddushin. You understand? You understand the way Rashi or the way the standard explanation is? Okay. Say that.
Amud daf 90b. That's the problem.
That's where they say it. Okay, I knew Rashi says it. Thank you. So it's in Masechet Yevamot, not here. Okay, thank you. Chazak u'baruch.
I mean, in my Gemara, there's in the right side, Likutei Rashi, and there he mentions this Hefker Beitin Haya Hefker.
Hevanti. So you probably have like an edition of the Gemara that they bring the Rashi from different places and they put it on the side, which is very nice. So thank you both of you. There's some problems with this. Okay, so now we know it was Rashi, and that's everybody explains it like Rashi, almost everybody. So there's a few problems. Okay, let me start with some of the problems, and then we're going to read the Ayuni. First of all, you can't retroactively cancel a financial transaction, right? The Bedin can make a law, for example, from now, and say that from this moment on, the Reuben's property is mufkar, right? We can't go backwards in time and be mafkirim. So when the husband makes the kiddushin, and here's another problem. So the first problem is hefker betin hefker. It's dubious to say that it applies retroactively. Okay, but more than that, let's say the hachamim hifkiru et mamono shel habaal, as Rashi says in Masechet Yevamot Daf Sadi. Okay, hifkiru et mamono shel habaal. Interesting. So the husband made kiddushin, and it's not his, but he calls his wife to enjoy the money. He's the reason she got that money. The kiddushin is valid. Right? Let's say, for example, the husband has something from Ir HaNidacha. I'll give you an example. According to the pasuk says in Perashat Shofetim, "Velo yidbak biyadecha me'uma min hacherem." Okay. Now the husband takes something from Ir HaNidacha. He sees a gold coin, and he tells the wife, "Ariat mikudeshet li." Now he has no rights in that gold coin, right? Because Ir HaNidacha is hayrem. But he took it against the law, and he has no property ownership in that gold, but he gave it to the wife. The halacha is she's mikudeshet, because the husband was the tool for which the wife got that hana'ah, that gold, even though he didn't own it. You understand? So that's number one. Okay, so now the other question as well. Okay, so there's another question. So we said we said so far two things. Number one, hefker lemafreya. There is no hefker betin, hefker lemafreya. Number two, even if you say that the husband didn't own the money, doesn't have property rights on the money, but he calls the wife to get the money, and that would be enough for purposes of kiddushin. Number three, I'm just giving you problems with the standard explanation so that you can appreciate the alternative explanation. The bet din, they could be mafkir the husband's money in theory, as we said, but they can't give the money to the wife. So what she says in Masechet Yevamot is that they're mafkirim the money of the husband, so he's not the owner. And part of the bedin is, and they award the wife the money, so that they're the ones who awarded the money to the wife, not the husband. The bedin does not have the right to award money to any. They can be mafkirim the money. They can't say that we now are the ones that gave the money to the wife. That's not an accurate description of hefker bedin hefker. Okay.
She would have to return it?
I don't know. The point is, he gave her the money. She now owns the money, but Rashi says no. She got the money from the bet din. Okay, it's a bit problematic. It's not. it lacks a certain precision. And I'm not saying this to be, how shall we say? I'm saying this because I really want to understand the law properly. I want all of you to understand the problems.
It's a little ironic because we have the whole issue that we started with, the law mar klum. If you didn't say me'achshav from the beginning, you can't later on go and say me'achshav, right? But now here
Right.
they're going back and retroactively saying you can go back
Well,
and
that's a
change.
problem. I mean, that's
Right.
that's an additional problem. Now, also, it's a mistake. You see, again, this is just you don't see. You're not mafkia the kiddushin from him. You're mafkia the kiddushin from her. Okay, but okay, that's what the word. If you look at the kitvei yad, it's not there. I want to read to you what my father wrote in the Iyunim. Now, my father's Iyunim is not very well known. The truth is, it was published, I think, in 1978, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's not very well known. It's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest books on halakha written in the last 300-400 years. That's my own opinion. There was a Hacham from Israel. I can say the story. I think I've said it in the past. You see those red books, the Rasha books, Alav Shmuel Pinchasi, right in back of you, Irving. Go a little more to go more. That 3-volume set. So he wrote Perushim on. That's it. Yeah.
This one, yeah.
He's a very well-known dayan in Israel. He wrote many books on various topics. He used to correspond with my father. He wanted my father to read his Pesakim. Okay. So Alav Shmuel Pinchasi. He wrote many books on Pirkei Avot and Derashot and the Torah. He gives. So anyway, he was once in somebody's house in our community. Isaac Mozeri, you know Isaac.
Yeah.
So he was there Friday night and he was looking for a book to read. And Isaac had my father's Iyunim. This is many years ago. So he told the rabbi to read the Iyunim. He took it off the shelf, and he was reading the Iyunim, and he was up all night. And the wife goes to Isaac Moseri. She says, "What did you do to my husband? Why did you take my husband away?" Says, "What are you talking?" He says, "The whole Shabbat he does nothing but read the book." So he said. So he told Isaac, whoever wrote this book is Gadol Hador, right? Like so Chachamim, who studied the book, they understood the significance of this book. That the Iyun in this book is several generations past what the common yeshiva world is used to. They're not used to this type of Iyun. This wasn't written for the days it was written. It was written for generations later when we reach a level of knowledge and a level of Torah that we can appreciate this and understand it. But the Gedolei Adon knew it. Also, Adam Mordechai Eliyahu, he had tremendous, even though Adam Mordechai Eliyahu was into things that more, let's say, what we would consider more black hat. I say this with great respect. Of course, Adam Mordechai Eliyahu was, I respected him immensely. He was, because he had nothing to do with politics. I love that about him. He was just no politics. He didn't want politics. But anyway, he respected my father immensely, and he was a tough hacham. He wasn't like, he was mamash, you saw him, you don't act disrespectfully to him. He had, anytime my father and Hamad were together, he would, they would discuss the Torah, just nonstop, because he read this book. He knew he knew who my father was. So anybody who read, anytime a Chacham read this book, understood who my father was. So I want to read the Iyun of my father on Atkeinu Rabbanan Kiddushin. All right, just give me a moment. Let me open the slide. It's hard to see these small letters. Oh, good. Maybe over here. I'll open that one. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I don't know who has, but we have another copy of the Iyunim there. Ike, go all the way to the top. Here, let me give me a copy. It's a red copy. Here, it'll be much faster if I do it. We should have a copy here. Or maybe I took it upstairs. I misspoke. Yeah. Good that I got it because you would never have found it.
It would have been all day going back and forth.
Here it is. Oh, actually, here it is. Okay. Okay, so here. I'll tell you the page in a moment. It was on the Ma'emek Komot. Does anybody remember what page it was? Otherwise, I'll just look at the index. Did somebody check the WhatsApp?
28 or
29?
29?
Okay.
28.
28. Okay, thank you. Page 28. Okay, so one of the things that my father introduced to the modern Jewish lexicography is the idea of dinim muflaim. And Here he deals with the question of dinim muflaim. By the way, one day I want to teach Belina to teach this book, give a shiur on this book. So me'ata yuvheru kama dinim muflaim. So the idea of dinim muflaim, let me say to you what dinim muflaim are, and then we will read it in the. But the idea of a din mufla is that we receive from Moshe Rabbeinu what's in Arabic is called the usul. So the usul are the ikarim, meaning we got the Tarek Mitzvot from Moshe Rabbeinu, but what we got is we got the principal laws of the Tarek Mitzvot. But then there are details that we didn't get from Moshe Rabbeinu, and these details they were going to be provided by the Chachamim, by the Betin, of course. When I say Chachamim, I always mean Betin. So just so you know, it was going to be provided by the Betin. And the Betin, when they formulate a law, they can formulate a law that's Derabanan. Gezerah, Takana, Siag la Torah, they can do that. Not every law that the Betin formulates has the status of Derabanan. What do I mean? If the Betin is coming to give us a detail of the din de oraita, that detail becomes de oraita. I'll give you an example. I put on a sisit. So I put on sisit, according to the Torah, arba kanfot. Of course. How many chutim? We don't know. We didn't receive that from Moshe Rabbeinu. Come the Chachamim, they give us a detail. How many chutim? So we know how many chutim and how to put the techelet. Okay. When I put the chutin on the sisit and I say beracha, I'm making misad oraita. It's not that if I put the sisit, the talit, without the chutin, I'm also making misad. So I say but there's no chutin there. That's I made one chut, I made two chut, I made three, I made five, I made six. No. It's the authority of the Hachamim is to define how to make these misvot de oraita. So it's not that if I made 3 chutin, I made a mitzvah de oraita, but de rabbanan, I should have had 4 chutin. No, that's a mistake. Once the Hachamim define the law, as they define the law, that definition is de oraita. Do you understand? That's called the din mufla. That's one of the great chidushim. My father, you have so many pilpulim, Elohim Yishmor. You just hear shi'urei Torah, kiddush, Friday night, if you did this, if you did that. Like it's simple. They don't know din muflaim. And when you know din mufla, you understand. Solves the problem. Okay. So here they have, for example, let me give you an example. I'll read in the text. So the oraita for Moshe Rabbeinu, a woman, you make kiddushin on a woman in 2 ways. Shetar, contract. Hareat mekudeshet li bishtar zo, and you give her the contract b'fnei shnei edim. She's mekudeshet. And then bi'ah. According to Din Torah, a person wants to be mekadesh isha, he brings 2 edim kasherim, he's mityahed with the woman, right? Bo'el, and through the be'ilah, and the edim are outside, let's say they're aware of the well. They say, Aliyah mekudeshet li, and ba'aliyah, and she's mekudeshet. That's the oraita. The Rabbanan, they said no, there's a third way to make kiddushin. Ki yikach ish isha. What do you think ki yikach? To make a derasha that Ephron HaHitti, when he sold the sadeh to Avraham Avinu, it also says ki yikach, like vayikach. Okay. So gezerah shava ma shava b'mamon afkan b'mamon. So they say a new detail, a new law. What's a new law? She can be mitkadeshet bechesed. So one of the big problems that the Rishonim have is, let's say a woman who's mitkadeshet bechesed, and now another person comes and gives her kiddushim shetar. But the kiddushin of the shetar is the oraita. The kiddushin bechesed is the rabbanan. Apparently that's it. Halas. She's out. Why not? Right? The kiddushin the oraita override the kiddushin bechesed. That's only the rabbanan. They have all types of problems. But if you understand the law of din mufla, you understand that once the Chachamim define a detail of a law de oraita, they can give that detail the status of the law de oraita that they're defining. That's called the din mufla. You understand? All right. Now we're going to read it in the Iyunim. Does anybody, Chacham Aaron, do you have anything you wanted to add?
I have some questions, but it's more relevant to this piece of the sugya we just read as opposed to this.
Yes. I think that I also had, it's funny, I also had some questions. I believe I may have, I don't know, I'm not sure what your questions are, but I did have some questions and I believe I'm going to be able to address them later on tonight. But let's put that. So now for now, the iyunim, for those of you who have the iyunim, and you can look at it, page 28. מעתה יובהרו כמה דינים מופלאים שמצד אחד החמירו בהם חז"ל כמצווה מן התורה ומאידך הקלו בהם. דוגמה מאלפת היא קידושי חסד. So let's look at קידושי חסד, which is the topic that we're discussing. מצד אחד רואה רבנו בקידושי חסד דין דאורייתא ממש. According to Rambam, קידושי חסד is דאורייתא ממש. או בעצם מדאורייתא. It's מדברי סופרים. שהרי בא להגדיר דין קידושין מן התורה, because this is a detail of the Chachamim that comes to define a law deoraita. So again, this detail itself becomes deoraita. So, אישה שנתקדשה בקידושי חסד, אשת איש מן התורה. That has the law of אשת איש מן התורה. והבא עליה, חוץ מבעלה, חיה מיתה. If anybody בעל מינן is with her, חיה מיתה. Right? So we don't say, oh, because it's דרבנן. No. מאידך, אין קידושין אלה מקובלים ממשה. מקובלים ממשה. But this law doesn't come from משה רבנו. ולחז"ל הסמכות להפקיעם ברצונם, therefore, because the law doesn't come from Moshe Rabbeinu, the Chachamim have the law, the right להפקיע את הקידושין, right? להפקיענו רבנן לקידושין, right? You understand that? So now you understand it's a slightly different, very different, not slightly different, very different explanation. Lehavkia doesn't mean lehafkir. Lehafkia means to annul. Since they're the ones who instituted kiddushin bechesed, so they have a right to annul the kiddushin bechesed. And they said, yes, it's true that we said a person could be mekadesh bechesed, but not under a circumstance where he's going to bring a get and make a tanai. Say the get, for example, is effective in 12 months, and then it ended up that he was anus, right? Not in that circumstance. In that circumstance, we're mafki'im the kedushin. There's a principle in dinim de rabbanan, hem amru vehem amru. Hem amru vehem amru means if the hachamim make a takana, they can also decide under what circumstances the takana or the gezerah is not going to be applicable. So anachnu mafki'im the kedushin. In these types of circumstances, no, there's no kedushin. We annul it. Mekor din zeh Talmud. So the source for this law is in the Talmud. Just see footnote 34. Ketubot, yeah, exactly. That's our sugya. Tina Kadish bechaspa, right? So Kadish bevi'ah ma'ika lemema. So that we didn't read in the Gemara yet. So the Gemara asks a question. Let's look at the Gemara. So what did we say? You say Akinu Rabbanan Kiddushin Mineh. So the Gemara says, oh, the Kiddushin. I'm sorry, not Mineh. Amar le Rabbeina le Ravashe. So Rabbeina asks the following question. Tina Kadish bechaspa. What you just said, Afki'inu Rabbanan l'kiddushe or l'kiddushin, that would only make sense in kiddushe chesed. Why would it make sense in kiddushe chesed? Since they're the ones who made the law of kiddushe chesed, they can annul the law of kiddushe chesed. That I can understand. Afki'inu Rabbanan l'kiddushin mineh. Kaddish bevi'ah. Ma'ika lenemar. What about if the kiddushin was bevi'ah? So now the guy was mekadesh bevi'ah, the kiddushin bevi'ah is the oraita, and then he gave a get, al tenai, and then it was anus, and according to Rava, entanat ones begitin, right, and therefore the get is a get, but the oraita, yesh tanat ones begitin, and therefore the get is not a get, and you tell me, no problem, afkinu rabbanan kiddushin mineh. What do you mean afkinu rabbanan kiddushin mineh? Because the Chachamim are not the ones who made this kiddushin. This is kiddushin for Moshe Rabbeinu. You understand the problem?
You could do kiddushin from Bia?
Yes, we said
the
oraita, there's two kiddushin. There's kiddushin, you give a shetar. Let me read you on Rambam.
Shetar kesef from Bia? I thought that was...
No, so kesef is the rabbanan divrei sofrim. Shetar and bi'ah is the rabbanan.
Right?
Yeah, here, let me open up. Hilchot ishut. Oh man, I'm with the wrong book. I'm completely mehila. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm going to put this back. Look at this. Hilchot ishut. Whoa, okay, here we go. Okay, Hilchot ishut. at the beginning.
When she's engaged, isn't she not allowed to do this?
So,
So how do we do Kiddushin with that?
That's well, you do it one time and then
That's it?
and that's basically.
oh yeah, then afterwards he can't be with her, of course.
Like that's why.
Because she returns to her
remember during
father.
Kiddushin, she can't write. So, but I guess once and then that's it.
All right, let me read you Rambam. This is Ilchot Ishut, Perek Gimel Halacha Aleph. כסף האישה מתקדשת. אם בכסף הוא מקדש, אין פחות מפירוטה כסף או שווה פירוטה. But that's with the money. אומר לה, הרי את מקודשת לי. Okay. And then if you go to הלכה ג' ואם קידש בשטר, כותב על הנייר או על הפרס, או על העלה, או על כל דבר שירצה, he writes, הרי את מקודשת לי ונותנו לה לפני עדים. So that's קידושין בשטר. And then בביאה, if you go to הלכה ה' ואם קידש בביאה, אומר לה, הרי את מקודשת לי, he says, הרי את מקודשת לי, בבעילה זו, so he said, I'm בועל אותך, מקודשת לי בבעילה זו, הוא מתייחד עמה בפני שני עדים. And then he's מתייחד in the presence of two עדים, right, they go to a private room, הוא בועלה, and that's it, she's מקודשת, he's not allowed to be with her after that, to answer your question, because she's going back to Bet Avia, right? So now, you understand the question of the Gemara, Tina Bechesed. So the Kiddushay Kesef is the Rabbanan. So since the Kiddushay Kesef is the Rabbanan, they can be mafigin the Kiddushay Kesef the Rabbanan. What if he makes Kiddushin Bevi'ah? Like, go put that on the moment. Excellent question, by the way. But for now, Mekadesh Bevi'ah? Right? You understand? How can that be? Because no. That's the question that Rabbeinu asked Rav Asher. Tina Kadish Bechaspa. Kadish Bevi'ah, Ma'ika Lememar. Shavinhu. It says here Shavia, but it's Shavinhu. I don't know, I can't see actually what it says, but the Ketav Yad says Shavinhu. Shavinhu Rabbanan Lib'ilato Be'ilat Zenut. So what's the solution? The Chachamim are going to say that his Be'ilah was Be'ilat Zenut. Meaning, when he was Bo'elota, he wasn't with her for the sake of...
But he said, hey, I can Kiddushin.
Right, that's what he said. No, he wasn't there for Kiddushin. He was in it because he wanted to make Avera. And he says an excuse. It was Be'ilat Zenut. Okay, that's what he says. All right, that's the end, but that's the end of the Gemara. I mean, this part of the Gemara. So now, there's some problems. It's not simple. I want to start with reading what my father wrote. So as we're continuing now. So now we have, give me a moment, I'll be back in a second. Mechila. Give me 1 second. I need a tissue.
Why do they have to add Kesef? They had Shtar and Bi'awai. Why did everyone need to add a third way? Shtar is easy.
They wanted to add a third one.
Shtar, you write it down and you give her a piece of paper.
There must be a reason why they wanted to add a third one.
Look, okay, Bi'awai is complicated. You want to make it easier way.
Right.
Shtar.
I don't know. Where's Nathan?
Is that a Marishat class?
No. No. Yeah, that's where you. I think you're move.
Recording stopped.
And recording in progress. Okay. Mechila.
Recording in progress.
Why did they need to add kesef as a third option? If you have shtar, which
Okay,
is pretty
interesting.
simple
Whatever.
and easy.
Maybe because they didn't want people giving kiddushin the beyond the shtar.
But shtar is easy.
So they got.
Why is
Yeah.
kesef easier than shtar?
Interesting question. Okay, that is an interesting question. I didn't think about it. But let's get back now to this thing. Mechila, that I want to try to finish this thing because I have something to add to what my father wrote. So now back to the Yunim B'Mishneh Torah. What is it, page 28? Tena, Hortinach, Kadish B'Chaspa. Kadish בביאה מעיקה לממר, כלומר, מובן שלחז"ל סמכות להבקיע קידושי חסד. אבל מניין להם הסמכות להבקיע קידושי ביאה? You understand the question? הכתיבים מבקיע קידושי ביאה, המפרשים קבעו כי לחז"ל הרשות להבקיע קידושי חסד משום הפקד בית דין הפקד. Remember we discussed that? Right? And so the idea is that they're mafkirim the kesef of the bar. And therefore the kiddushay kesef is not a kiddushin. לרם נימוק זה לא ייתכן לדעת רבנו. ואין עולה יפה עם המקורות התלמודיים. רבנו סבור שהאישה מקודשת בקידושי כסף שאינו של הבעל, כי הוא לא מקדש בגזל, לאחר ייאוש לפני שינוי רשות, משום שהיא קנתה על ידו את הגזלה. So Rambam has a rule. Let's say, for example, we can read it in a moment. Ilchot Yishut Perek Halacha Zayin. Let's read it now. So the question is, now the husband robbed money. Now, Ahar Yeush. So now the Be'alim were with Ya'ashim, but there was no Shinui Reshut yet. So the husband doesn't have ownership over what he robbed. You understand the question? He gave this money to the woman, and he doesn't own it yet. You understand? So what's the status? Is that Kiddushin or not? So look at Perek Halacha Zayin. Chot Yishut, Perek Halacha Zayin. Chot Yishut, Perek Halacha Zayin.
Why is it different than the money from Erin Dachat? It's money that
Exactly, look, same example. Another
she
example.
benefited from it.
I gave one example. My father's bringing this example. So here it is. המקדש את האישה בבזל או בגנבה או בחמאס אם נתייאשו הבעלים ונודע שקנה אותו דבר בייאוש. הרי זו מקודשת ואם לאו אינה מקודשת. Interesting, what did he say here? Now I just want to see this. Just 1 second. What did my father say here? ככל המקדש בגזל לאחר ייאוש לפני שינוי רשות, right? So there was no shinui reshut yet, right? And yet, even though there was no shinui reshut, meaning the husband doesn't have the, I'll give you an example. Shinui reshut. Let me give you an example. I have a valuable, let's say I have a valuable piece of copper. Okay, so now this valuable piece of copper is used for, I don't know, for some, let's say I had some rare earth minerals which are used for a computer. Okay, so I rob the rare earth minerals and I give it, not me, Reuven robs it and gives it to Rivka, and then he says, rare earth minerals. Now, the owner of the rare earth mineral already said Kaddish on the rare earth mineral. He realized he's never going to get it back. Now, the robber doesn't get ba'alut in the rare earth mineral unless, for example, he builds it. So let's say he puts it into a computer. So now, according to halacha, he becomes the owner. That's because it's Shinui Reshut. There's Shinui Reshut. But before that, there was no Shinui Reshut. So now he gives it to the wife. Now he gives it to the wife, he doesn't own it. And yet the wife is Mekudeshet. You understand that Chidush? Even though he was not the owner of the rare earth mineral, it has to be after Yeush Ba'alim, because if not after Yeush, he doesn't own it either. If there's no Yeush, then how could she own it? So there has to be Yeush of the Ba'alim. So Yeush of the Ba'alim is necessary.
You said he doesn't own it until he builds with it.
I'm sorry?
You said he doesn't own it until he builds something.
He doesn't own it until he builds something. So I think the classical case that God robs a piece of wood and builds a house. Are we going to force the guy to knock
why
down
does
the house?
Yeush make a difference?
Are we going to force the guy to knock down the house to give the piece of wood back to the original owner? The original owner said, I want the piece of wood. Nityashta? Yes, Nityashti. But now I see the piece of wood. It's in the house. I want it.
So you need
No,
Yeush
you know
and
did that.
building.
You're right. So the point is that Shinui Reshut happens once you put the piece of wood in the house. Now, so between Yeush, which now the original owner doesn't own it because he's Mikaesh, and Shinui Reshut, the husband doesn't own it because there's no Shinui Reshut, the wife, and he does a Kiddushin with that, the wife owns it. So that's the case. So according to that, how does it help to to be mafkir.
The wife could own it without building
But the
anything?
wife owns a kiddushin anyway. That's the kiddushin. Let's say hefker bedin hefker is lemafreya. So they did hefker bedin hefker lemafreya. So now you're saying what? Because of the hefker bedin hefker, the husband doesn't own it. Very good. But still, the wife now got it. It's hers. So if the wife got it, then it's mekudeshet. So the case of the gezel, the case of Iran Gachat. You understand? Let's continue. Right. אוקיי, מכאן אתה למד שאפילו בזמן שחז"ל הכירו בממונו של הבעל, היא מקודשת, שהרי סוף כל סוף היא קנתה את הכסף קדושים. המפרשים, so the מפרשים, the ראשונים, they understood that problem. Meaning, it's not that they were not aware of the problem, they acknowledged the problem. So רצו להיחלץ מקושי זה וביארו שחז"ל מפקירים ממון הבעל למפרע, ומקנים אותו לאישה בתורת מתנה. So what they say is that they do two things. Hefker betin hefker, they're mafkirim the kesef kiddushin that husband gave to the wife, and then after they're mafkirim the kesef kiddushin, they give the kesef as a present to the wife, right? And if you look at the Rashi and Argemara, but just look at footnotes 37 here, and this is Rashi and Argemara. כך יש ללמוד ממה שכתב רש"י כתובות שם, תינח ועושה מעות matana meikaran. So you understand? So Rashi is also aware of the problem. The problem being that again, kadesh begezel leachar yush be'alim lifnei shinui reshut. That kiddushin is kiddushin. So Rashi knows that. So what do you do with that? So the answer is no. The husband didn't give her the thing. It's keilu the betin gave her the mamon. You understand? Ve'oseh ma'ot matana meikaran, right? And the chen begitin. You see that? He repeats that idea that it's a matana. Meaning the intention of Rashi, שחז"ל הפקירו המעות של הבעל ויתנו אותן לאישה במתנה למפרע. You understand? So the Chachamim, they made hefker betin hefker on the ma'ot, and then they give those ma'ot and they give it as a gift to the wife. Okay? Skip. I just skipped down because Omnam, לפי מה שפרשנו בדעת. Okay, all right, let's so now go back in the main text. Omnam לרבנו לחז"ל הסמכות להפקיד ממון הבעלים. I'm back in the main text now. הרמב"ם acknowledges, of course, that hefker betin hefker, right? אבל לא להקנותו לאחרים. But you can't. There is no situation where you could be makneh the mamon to someone else. You can be mafkir the mamon. You can't be makneh the mamon. מכאן שאין מקום לפרש שהפקעת הקידושים מטעם הפקר. So it's difficult to say that הפקעת הקידושים is because of הפקר, right? רבנו ביאר את דברי התלמוד כפשוטם, היינו שחז"ל הפקירו, לא שהפקירו את הקידושים, הפקירו את הקידושים. הפקירו, לא להפקירו. So I want to summarize my father's explanation, and then I want to ask a question against my father's explanation. To summarize, Rava is coming and saying, correct. Could be that the Oraita, yesh ta'anat ones begitin. And since yesh ta'anat ones begitin, the get is not a get. He was anus. The reason he didn't fulfill the Tanakh is because he was anus. Okay, so he was anus. Rava says no. And Tanat onos begitin. How can you say that? How can you say that? And the answer is that kolam kadesh, right? Anybody who makes kiddushim, al dat rabbanan u mekadesh, ve'afki'inu rabbanan lekiddushim or lekiddusheh. What does afki'inu mean? It doesn't mean he's mafkir, because we saw there's a lot of problems to say hefker. It also doesn't say hefker. It says mafkia. Mafkia means to annul, right? So they say he's mafkia the kiddushim. So then they say the question that Ravina asked Rav Asher, if you're going to say they're mafki'im the kiddushin, I can understand kaddish bechaspa, because since the kiddushin the kesef is the rabbanan with the sofrim, okay, you can be mafkia. Kaddish bevi'ah, but the second you say kaddish bevi'ah, how can you say kaddish bevi'ah, which is the oraita, that the chachamim are going to be mafki'im kiddushin the oraita? So the answer is shavinhu rabbanan liv'ilato be'ilat zenut. So the chachamim make the be'ilah of the husband a be'ilat zenut. If it's Be'ilat Zenut, that's not Kiddushin. The Kiddushin, Bo'el Isha L'Shem Kiddushin, not Bo'el Isha L'Shem Zenut, so that's not Kiddushin. So I have two questions. Question number one, and I'm sure Hakam Aaron, I'm not sure if these are your questions. You want to raise your questions now, or should we you'll address them later?
Let me raise them now because it's kind of relevant.
Yes.
So, here's the first question. This is just procedural, but when so I see a seed of a Rabbah made in the Gezerah already in the Maaseh, the judicial Maaseh of Shemuel, because Rabbah is saying there's no onus at all. Shemuel is saying I get to decide as a Dayan when it's onus de shachiach or onus de la shachiach. And if I say in my subjective judgment it's onus de shachiach, then I'm breaking the same kiddushin just like Rabbah is in his categoric gezerah.
Correct.
And so the seed of Shemuel is the Beit Din gets to interpret the facts before it,
Right.
even against the intent of the parties. So therefore, when Rabbah says, or we say on behalf of Rabbah, that Zemin de Anis, but really he says he's not Anis, or she says he's not Anis.
Right.
And Zemin de la Anis, and she says he and her both together say he is Anis. So when we say there's a somewhat more authoritative finding as to when he's anus and not anus beyond what he and the wife say. So who is that? That's the court, because it's a subjective determination. There's no way to tell objectively is he anus or not anus, right? Shemuel says you should have known about the Ma'abar being flooded. And he says, no, it's a weird flooding and it only happens because of climate change and it's once in 100 years, it's not shafiach at all. And Shemuel has the authority to say, no, I'm the Dayan, I say it is shafiach. So Shemuel is doing the exact same thing, except in a more limited way by characterizing what is shafiach.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the first question. Isn't that the same? Isn't that kind of the basis in the sugya that leads up to Rabbah, which is the categoric word? Second of all, I thought, well, why do we need Rabbah? Because when Shemuel says in court, Amar lehu something, does that have the same authority as in Ibra, like Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shemuel? Or is that of a lesser authority because it's a report of what he said in court, entering an order from the bench, but it was never an Ibra Shenimsar like Yeshiva? So maybe that's why we needed Rabbah in this sugya. We know the idea from Shemuel. Rabbah comes and says, I'm even erasing Biltad de la Sheficha, honest de la Sheficha, and that's what he's doing. But the idea, the kernel of the idea is the court always gets to define some element of the Kiddushin, whether to say the get is really not a get because you didn't fulfill the condition, or to say we have jurisdiction over Kiddushei Chesed because we invented it. We get to say what is Shaveh Peruta, not Shaveh Peruta, whether it was correctly given, not correctly given, who owns it, who not owns it. So it's a really short leap to then say by Kiddushei Bi'ah, we get to determine the facts of the Bi'ah. You say you were there, and both you and her would say, we were there. You don't know, Mr. Dayan. It was 100% for the purpose of the mitzvah. And the Dayan 1 year later can say, no, I think that was a zinut, and I override you because my subjective judgment is authoritative and yours isn't.
Right. So I think so. Let me go first to the first question. And when my father taught this sugya, he actually specifically said the following: why do we need Rabbah? We have Shemuel. Why do we need Rabbah? We have the Mishnayot. And he says because even with Shemuel, he's leaving open the possibility of honest. He's just saying that as a judge, I think this is there's onsad de shachiach and there's onsad de la shachicha. Fair enough. But the point is, once you get into that type of discussion, you have the problem of senuot and perusot. The senuot and perusot cannot divine what the judge will think in this given situation, right? And now you're going to have a situation where maybe the perusot thinks one thing and maybe the judge thinks something else, and yotzim banei mamzerim. So my father said, and I think that's really what you were touching upon, which is a very subtle point. He didn't want there to be discussion or judgment of the judiciary. Rava wanted to just make a very simple rule, and Tanat honest begitin. We don't care what type of honest. We don't care whether it's a common honest, not a common honest. That's not operative, and therefore the wife waits 12 months. The husband said, "Tonight, 12 months. The get is a get. The get is a get. Get married. Nobody will bother you about it." That's the end of the story. That's the thing. Now, I'm sorry. You.
It's good. Very good.
Yeah. Now your second question. Well, I think I just answered the second. I believe, unless I misunderstood it.
Yeah. The first question was, we have Shemuel, but does the report of an order from the bench have the same authority? Let's say Shemuel would have been sufficient.
Right.
But this formulation of Shemuel get us there, or it's weaker because the Amar Lehu reporting from the bench, like we heard what he said in open court.
Yeah.
That's not Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shemuel.
Yeah. One of the things my father used to say, Alav Shalom, you have like these shalot to tshuvot. So Rabbi Dersa makes a shalot of Pesach in this situation, A, B, C. And then they take the Pesach of Rabbi Yosef, and they take all its Pesakim, and they make a book of halachot called Yalkut Yosef. And they say the halakha is like this. And one of my father's points in studying halakha, proper study of halakha, is when a chacham makes a Pesach halakha, we don't always know the full reason for the Pesach. We don't always know the full context. We know some of the context, and there could be, for example, a situation where Chacham decides to be Mekel, even against Halakha. For whatever reason, he wants to be Mekel in the community because he realizes if he's not Mekel, but Minan, something worse can happen. Whether we agree or disagree with the Chacham, doesn't matter. That was his Pesach. Now you're going to say, according to this Chacham, I'll give you an example. Arav Yosef Mesas. Arav Yosef made Pesach at some situation that there was a woman, she wasn't Mechatzad Rosh, and the husband agreed, and he said it's okay. So now, I'm not going to be okay with the law of covering the head. Well, you want your wife to cover her hair, cover the head. You don't want her, don't cover the head. But don't be okay with the law. Don't say the law is not the law and it's okay. And Arav Yosef said the following Pesach. I don't know why he said the Pesach. He might have had a reason. There might have been a situation, and maybe he wanted to be Mekel, and he wanted to because he wanted to be Mekel because he realized they could get divorced. I don't know what. So he said what he said, and I think that's part of the problem. You can't take something that was said in court, and now say this is Mishneh Torah halakha pesuka. This is the halakha, right? And that's what that's exactly what Ravad does. By the way, Ravad says, and this is the halakha and honest begitin.
Yes. He has the authority, and if the Sukkah endorsed it, that's fine.
Right.
Now
Right, exactly. There's a Pesach of Rabbi Yosef in Yechavedav regarding Aliyah L'Harabayit, and he really says something that's against halakha. He says Asur La'alot L'Harabayit, even Tahor, and Tememet Ken Kol L'Harabayit. It's not halakha. He knows that. It's not that he doesn't know the halakha. He knows that Tememet can go up to Harabayit. It's not a question. He says so in Yabia Omer himself. Rabbi Yosef in Yabia Omer says that it's mutar. I mean, you have to read it b'diuk. You have to be very medayak, and it's clear that it's obvious that he knew the simple halakha. So why did he say in Yechavedat it's asur? So now I'm writing Yalkut Yosef, asur to go up to Harabayit if you're tamemet. I don't know why he wrote it. Maybe in his mind he saw many people after the 6-day war going up to Harabayit, Tebeim, Teorim, the Dod, Zavot, Yoldot, everybody going up to Harabayit. He says asur to go up to Harabayit. And then you come and you say, no, it's asur to go up to Harabayit. No, but you have to understand. He made a Pesach in a certain context. And he had a reason for his Pesach. So that's why I'm not a big fan of Yalkut Yosef. And when I say Yalkut Yosef, I don't necessarily mean the first edition, which is different than the second, which is different than the third, which is different than the fourth. I'm not sure which edition I'm not in favor of. But the point is, it's not, no, that's not the proper methodology. So Yalkut Yosef says this, and end of story. I remember once, the worst thing is when you're dealing with people who are burim, and they quote Yalkut. I was once in Israel, there was a question how to do 3 perashiot on Shabbat, and big fight in the knees, Yalkut Yosef, and there's like, burim, I mean really burim that don't know halakha, and they're bringing it, but the Yalkut Yosef said, okay, very good. So now let's go to our point. I have a problem. First of all, I agree with my father's explanation. And I have a problem. Why doesn't the Gemara bring the question of shetal? The Gemara said, oh, yeah, you're right. If it's Kiddushay Kesef, we can understand Afiyenu Rabbanan Kiddushin. The Chachamim could be another Kiddushin. because it's Mekadesh Bekesef is Medivre Sofri. Oh, what about Kiddushin Bevi'ah? Oh yeah, the Chachamim could be deciding that the Kiddushin Bevi'ah is Be'ilat Zenut. So first of all, what do you mean Shavinu Rabbanan Legilato Be'ilat Zenut? What does that even mean? But it wasn't Be'ilat Zenut. I mean, he knows that it wasn't Be'ilat Zenut. What are they saying Be'ilat Zenut? But then, a more important question, I think you were about to ask this before. Although, what time is it? I have no clue.
9:30.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. We're going to take a break, a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue. And the purpose of the remainder of the class will be to answer this question. Why didn't the Gemara bring Sheta? Ask the question about Sheta. What about Hamkadesh Bishtar? So now a person gets Kiddushin Bishtar, and now he said, I'm coming back in 12 months. If I don't come back in 12 months, then I the Kiddush, there's your get. And he gives her a get. And he doesn't come back in 12 months. And what are you saying? Oh, I was anus. You're anus. The get is not a get. Rabba says, no, the get is a get. And Tanat onus begitim. But so how can you say that? Oh, afkeinu rabbanan lekiddushin. But how can you say afkeinu rabbanan lekiddushin? But it's a shita. You understand, Chacham Aaron? You understand my question?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So that's I want to address that in the. So take a 5-minute break. We have some tea. I don't know. Get some cookies. You know the problem is it's right before Pesach, so we have a custom in our household that several months before Pesach there's no more chametz in the house.
From Hanukkah usually.
Usually Hanukkah we have the sukkahiyot, and then after that there's no more chametz. So I feel bad we don't have any cookies, but just walk around, get some fresh air. How's everybody doing? Who do we have online? Do we have anybody from Argentina? Ira Kodesh, Buenos Aires,
And Brazil.
Brazil. Okay. Buenos Aires, Argentina. Da, 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 da.
Well, I thought that same question about Shatar many years ago. I wanted to ask your father. I never got around to it. But I think I answered it in the meantime.
I'm very interested to hear if your answer was like mine, because when I was studying the sugya, it really bothered me. And then I read the Iyunim, and I wasn't sure. And I was like, what do I do? I was mamash navov, but I think I figured it out. But I also want to hear what I'm very curious to hear your answer in a minute. So, with your permission, I'm going to say my answer first. Are you okay with that, or you want to go first? Fada, you want?
That's fine.
Oh yeah, okay. All right. So we're going to give it another minute. We have some matzah if you want that.
Fried?
Fried. Fried. I'm sorry?
That Rabban changed his opinion about the Kiddush, the Shetar, in his Igerot.
Okay. Why do you say that? Explain.
I think that I saw that the Rabban changed his opinion about the Kiddush Shetar in him Mideoreta or
Midirabanan. Are you referring to his Igerot or Shalot Teshuvot? Right. I think I saw something one of the Shalot Teshuvot. If you find it, let me know. That actually would be great.
I think it's the inverse. There may be something like that, but he said why he's certain in the end that it's deoreta. I mean, mamash deoreta Moshe Rabbeinu.
Sheta.
Yes.
Yes, because of the na'ara me'orasa asher lo hayeta le'ish. So how could you have a girl who's mekudeshet and I forgot the full context, but there's an instance he found where you have a na'ara me'orasa but who didn't have bi'ah.
Very nice. So it has to be Sheta. So the default has to be Sheta. Excellent. Yes, now I remember that. Oh wow. Okay, let's record again, assuming that the recording was stopped. I want to read to you Harambam, Hilchot Ishut. Just one moment. So I'm reading the first halakha in Hilchot Ishut. So now we're recording. Okay, so we're continuing the class. I'm going to read to you the first halakha, Perek Aleph halakha Aleph, Hilchot Ishut. And it says that לפני מתן תורה, if I can find a place, לפני מתן תורה, a person would say, היה רואה אישה בשוק, קודם מתן תורה. היה אדם פוגע אישה בשוק, he sees a woman in the marketplace. אם רוצה הוא והיא, לישא אותה. By the way, you notice, we are not the, they have this thing of the theory of evolution that, we come from monkeys. We did not come from monkeys. Before Matan Torah, im roseh hu vehi. We were always very civilized. Many of the goyim come from, I'm sorry, I don't want to be disrespectful. But we never had this anyan, like by force, by this, by, it's a sickness among the nations, among the goyim, that you force a woman, to marry you or to be with you or whatever. Mamash, it's a mahala, a sarat mam'ereti, right? So im rasa hu vehi, lisa ota. They want to be together. מכניסה לתוך ביתו ובועלה בינו לבין עצמו ותהיה לו לאישה. Right? Now listen what Harambam says. כיוון שניתנה תורה, נסתברו ישראל, שאם ירצה האיש לישא אישה, יקנה אותה תחילה בפני עדים. It has to be in the presence of עדים. ואחר כך תהיה לו לאישה. And then she's going to be his wife. שנאמר כי ייקח איש אישה ובא אליה. So what's the difference between before Matan Torah and after Matan Torah? Before Matan Torah, there's no edim. There's consent, but there's no edim. After Matan Torah, not only is there consent, but there's two things. There has to be a kinyan, and there has to be edim. Now, it's important that you understand the function of edim in the context of Kiddushin is not like the function of edim in other situations. The function of edim in other situations is to present evidence in case later on there's a dispute. So we have edim that's, for example, Reuven is going to sell his hamor to Shimon, and they agree, and there's edim, and then later on they make a kinyan, kinyan sudan, I don't know what. And then Reuven changes his mind, but they did the kinyan sudan in the presence of the edim, and now Shimon says, "Listen, I have edim." Now, do you have to have those edim? No. If Reuven, once Reuven did the kinyan, he has to, or Shimon rachab the hamor. He's a ba'alim the hamor. He's a ba'alim the hamor. Even if there was no edim, the transaction is a transaction. The edim are not there to make the transaction. The edim are there as evidence in case there's later on a dispute. So we have edim. Good idea to have edim, right? Okay. That's not what's happening with kiddushin. With kiddushin, the edim they're the ones who make the kiddushin. If a husband goes to a wife and he gives her and he gives her kiddushin, and there's no edim, there's nothing. It's meaningless. He knows he gave her kiddushin. She knows she wanted to get the kiddushin. She loves him. He loves her. We're in love with madly enough. You don't understand. My whole life I wanted to marry him, and now you're telling me it's not kiddushin? Yeah, it's not kiddushin. But why? There's no question what happened. We have a videotape, everything. They checked it. No AI, no deep fake. This really happened. We have the video right here. It doesn't matter. The edim are an integral part of the kiddushin, right? Now, and therefore, when you say, Rambam always repeats it, right? V'noten la with the kiddushay kesef, perek gimel halacha aleph. V'noten la hakesef, read the kesef b'fnei edim. Has to be b'fnei edim. If there was no edim and he gave her the kesef, there's nothing. Im kiddush b'shtar, he gives her the shetar. Harei b'kudeshet li. V'notno la b'fnei edim. Has to be in the presence of the edim. No edim, no marriage. In the case of the bi'ah, perek gimel halacha he, ואם קידש בביאה, אומר לה, הרי את מקודשת לי, בבעילה זו, ומתייחד עמה בפני עדים, ובועלה. So edim is integral to the
to all three then.
Of course. If there's no edim, there's no transaction. The kinyan happens b'fnei edim, and the edim are integral to the kinyan. Okay?
So how do they say it was znut if you have the edim there that it wasn't?
Interesting question. But for now, Bechila, that I'm just gonna look. I just want to read to you what Rambam says in Ilchot Edut. because you have to read. You got to read it so you hear it. I don't like just saying things. So he says at the beginning of the Khatadut, I think where was it? Maybe Perek Aleph, I don't remember. Does anybody have the Ma'em Mekomot? I already forgot what Ma'em Mekomot I said. Yeah, oh yeah, here, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel, I think, right? Let's see. If you see it, Perek Aleph. No. Yeah, no, Halacha Dalet. Misvat Aseh. לדרוש את העדים ולחוקרן. The מצוות עשה for the dayanim to investigate the העדים. ולהרבות בשאלתם, and to ask many questions. ומדקדקים עליהם. Right? ומסיעים אותם מעניין לעניין. We try to trick them. Right? We want to see. שנאמר ודרשת וחקרת ושאלת היטב. וסריחים הדיינים להיזהר בחקירת עדים. The question of edim is under the jurisdiction of the judiciary. It's up to the dayanim to determine. I trust this Ed, I don't trust this Ed. I like him, I don't like him. Tell me, when did this happen? Where did it happen? What day of the month? What day of the week? What year of the 7-year Shemitah cycle? Can you tell me that? The question of edut is up to the judiciary. Now, the minute you say that Kiddushin requires edim, it's automatically within the jurisdiction of the Chachamim. Beshavinu Rabbanan Le'ilato Beilat Zerut. That's a Beilat. Who told you? We're the Dayanim. Mr. Ayat, do you know what happened? Yes, I know for a fact. What do you mean you know for a fact? You know for a fact what was happening in his mind? I'm sorry. Right, like, don't tell us what happened.
It's not a slippery slope when you tell the Dayanim they can just make up whatever they feel like.
The Dayanim, it's their prerogative. What slippery slope, not slippery slope.
But they're doing it at this point, 10 years later.
Hopefully we appoint the right Dayanim. If we appoint the right Dayanim, we'll be good. If we appoint the wrong Dayanim, no rule will help.
Yeah, but it's clear that they're doing it here for...
I think who was the one who went to Suriname? There was a Chacham. David Nassi, thank you. David Nassi was a doctor, and he received a prize from Benjamin Franklin because apparently he cured some sickness that was taking place in Pennsylvania, and he was invited to go into the, I think, some philosophical or scientific society in Philadelphia. But anyway, he said, and my father told me once in the name of David Nassi, that a political system, you got the best political system. If you have corrupt politicians, it's going to fail. I mean, look at the United States today. The whole thing is a joke. The melech of the country, the president of the country can't do anything. They found that it was some crazy, wacky, loony, left-wing judge somewhere in America, and suddenly he becomes a president. I mean, it's crazy, right? So you can't have no political system can survive. So to your point, there's slippery slope. If you have bad politicians, there'll always be a slippery slope. And if you have good dayanim, there won't be a slippery slope.
Yeah, but for 10 years, they thought that the guy was married fine. Now that the guy's stuck with this hairy situation, oh yeah, now it was news all of a sudden.
The point is,
they don't really believe that.
They have the right, since the edim is within the jurisdiction of the Bet Din, afkeinu rabbanan kiddushin, and they don't have to tell us the reason, by the way, but they have the right to afkia. You agree with that? The minute you say that the edim, and you say that the edim is not there to testify, yes, she got married. The edim is integral to the kiddushin. There is no kiddushin without edim. Yani, this is mamash within the purview of the judiciary. Edim is a judicial issue. I like the Ed. I'm telling you, he's the most honest person in the world. The Dan doesn't like him. I don't. Ed Pasul. No. Ed Pasul. That's his problem. So Avkinu Rabbanan. That's why Shavinu Rabbanan lekidusha. That it's kidusha biyah, right? That meaning that same logic for sheta. A Shetana? Where did you write? What did you write in the Shetana? You wrote this? What was your kavanah when you wrote it? Mr. Ayat, do you know what his kavanah was? Did I have to know? What do you mean? Right? So that's it.
So what are the users in Kesef? Why do you have to have care the Kesef? Use the same thing?
No, we don't. There's no Kesef. That's not. We disagree. We disagree with Rashi on that point. Be disrespectful. We don't believe Hefker Betin Hefker. I mean, we don't believe Hefker Betin Hefker as a reason for or is the meaning of Afkinu Rabbanan.
The same thing as Zaydin.
Right?
So why do we ever have this issue where we have to kofino to if the guy doesn't want to give the get? Why don't we just
No, it's a difference. But it's a very good question. Interesting.
If we have this way out.
Because the mitzvah I said that what I tend to give a get. And he should make the mitzvah. He should make the mitzvah. But you're right, if it's a situation, let's say there's a sarban get, maybe there's maybe there's something we can do with this. I agree. If there's a person who refuses to give a get, but I believe a person refuses to give a get, there should be malkino ta'asha nishmato, you solve the problem. No more problem anymore. But if for some reason they don't want to do it, I don't know what. Okay, so maybe there's another way. Maybe afkinu labanan kiddushin mineh. I believe that would be an avenue to explore. All right. Chacham Aaron, did you have something a little different than what I said?
Very similar. So I think once you mentioned Kiddushay Bi'ah, then Shetar is Zu ve'en sarif lomar zu. And why? Because we had to stretch a little bit to bring, so the premise is Kiddushay Chesed v'Shaveh Chesed is totally within the jurisdiction of the Chachamim because they invented it. They get to say what the elements are and they get to say whether it's completed according to their construct because it's brand new. Then we said Bi'ah, also they get to determine the facts of a Bi'ah that happened 20 years ago and they weren't even present because they're the Bedi. So then if you already go there, then Shetar, which requires Kiyum Shetar, which is always done by the Dayanim.
Yes.
Or Shin Nishon Hedyot, which I got from Golden Dove's part textuality, right?
Yes.
The Bedin has the power, the Kayim HaShetar, like we're describing about the Adim.
Yeah.
There has the power to Doresh, the Lashon of each and every Shetar, which we know as Dorshin, Lashon, Hedyot. Of course, it's already within their jurisdiction.
Yes, exactly. Very nice. Chazak Baruch, I like that. Dorshin Lashon Edyot is very nice, and that ties in. So we have here like two separate elements, both related to the idea of Dinim Muflaim, the authority of the Chachamim. One is there's Aidut, which is within the judiciary, and they have an obligation, Lidrosh Velachkor, and the other is Dorshin Lashon Edyot. And those are both related to the fact that the Aidim, they're not there just to testify as evidence what happened. They're there to actually make the transaction. The presence of the Edim makes the transaction. The absence of Edim, there's no transaction, right? If you have, for example, one Ed is Bechalel Shabbat, and two Edim are Shomrei Shabbat, and the three people are Edim, there's no marriage. What do you mean there's no marriage? No, there's no marriage. How can there be no marriage? Because one of the Edim is Bechalel Shabbat. Well, what do you mean? So the two Edim is what? But two Edim are not Bechalel Shabbat. Then the two Edim are Keshelim. But again, the edut is what makes it. So for example, I'm performing Kiddushin, you have to be Me'ached Edim, so that, because otherwise everyone's like, oh, I want to be an ed. Oh, I'm looking. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Right, so it's a problem. Once I went to this wedding, it was in Israel, somebody else just like, it was irreligious people not sure what on this fault. So the rabbi came to me and says, please do me a favor, the Edim are complete. He saw I had a kippah. He says, please do me a favor, the Edim are completely pasulim. I couldn't speak to the husband, he refused to change it. So I'm going to be one head, can you be the other head? Just stand on the side and look at it. So we're with the Edim, and we're going to be the Keddushim, and everybody else is not it, right? Alright, very good. So I think Be'emet Zachinu, that we use my father's Iyunim, and my father always used to tell me, En midrash belo chidush. There's no such thing as a bet midrash without a chidush. So my father always came to me and always says, give me a chidush, tell me something. And he didn't want me to just repeat what he wrote. He always wanted me to add to what he wrote and to develop it further. So I really think my father would have been, or is happy at the fact that we're studying this and adding to what he wrote in the Iyunim. Okay. All right, so that's it. We just finished. We have one more section. Ika. Right. What time is it? Tell me when it's 10 o'clock, okay?
9:50.
Okay. What? 9:50.
50.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do now is, we have the Ika de Amre. The Ika de Amre, Amar Abba, Bechen Inyan Gitin. The exact opposite. Abba says the exact opposite. How can that be? Meaning, we have an Ika de Amre that says no. According to Abba, Bechen Inyan Gitin. What is Bechen Inyan Gitin? The same way Yesh Ta'anat Ones in the question of the Mezonot, when he has to pay Mezonot, you can say, look, I'm anus, right? Remember Rav Hashem made the Pesach Kol Onsa La'achla. Also here, Bechel Inyan Gitin. What? Okay. Alma Kasava Rabba, Yesh Ta'anat Ones Begitin, right? According to Rabba, Yesh Ta'anat Ones, exact opposite. How can that be? So, in order to understand this properly, there is a sugya in Masechet Gittin that we're going to be studying the sugya. Because this sugya is key to understanding this Ika de Amre. So we'll start it now. We'll just begin the sugya now. It's fascinating. There's a lot of great chidushim. But I think next week we should study, right? Next week, Tuesday, why not? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
sure.
Yeah, let's study. I actually like this, smaller crowd, easier to thing. But yeah, let's study next week. But let's we have 10 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes. I'm gonna get Masechet Gittin. Mechila that you don't have Masechet Gittin, but next week you'll have it. You can print it out or as you wish, and we'll study. Okay, so it's Daf Ayin Gimel, Amud Aleph. Let me open my notes also. I'm sure there's some things I wanted to say that I completely forgot. Give me a moment. Yes. Okay. All right. So this is Masechet Gittin, Daf Ayin Gimel, Amud Aleph. I'm cognizant of the fact that many of you don't have the book, so I'm going to read it slowly and explain it. Okay? The Gemara starts by quoting a Tosefta. This Tosefta is in Perek He, Masechet Gittin. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan. Now, interesting. The sugya starts with the words Tanu Rabbanan. That's very unusual. I like to check the Kitvei Yad and see if the word Tanu Rabbanan appears there. But it's a very important word. The reason I say it's important is because when you have Tanu Rabbanan before a Baraita, that means that this Baraita is authoritative. It's one level under the Mishnayot. Tanu Rabbanan means that the various yeshivot accepted this Baraita as an authoritative Baraita, meaning one that can be quoted and relied on, right? To me, this is problematic because, we'll see. We'll study the sugya. But that's the beginning of the sugya. So it starts with the word Tanu Rabbanan, because not every Tosefta, there's a lot of Toseftas, right? I mean, not every Tosefta is quoted by the Gemara. Not every Tosefta became a Tanya. Even Tanya is a level. But Tanu Rabbanan, that's a high level. So it's a high level, Tanu Rabbanan. Not every Tosefta gets the title Tanu Rabbanan, right? So this is an important Tosefta. So it says, Zegatech mehayom imeti mecholiza. Very interesting question. Husband goes to the wife and he says, Zegatech mehayom, meaning, lemafrei, he does it properly. He says, if I die from this particular sickness, says the husband, this get will be yours from today. You understand? Zegitech mehayom imeti mecholiza. Very good. You did proper. So far, everything good for, with the get. Correct? You agree? Okay. And by the way, the point of this sugya, because this sugya deals with the question of yesh ones begitin or en ones begitin. It's important to understand the sugya so that we can understand the ikad amre of Rava. Right? That's why we're studying the sugya. So he says, the Tosefta continues. V'nafal habayit alav. As soon as he says, look, honey, I love you, baba, badi, if I die, v'choli zeh, he gives her the get, she has a tear from her eyes, suddenly the house collapses on him and he dies. What's the law?
But it wasn't from the holy. So.
He didn't die from the holy.
So the get is
He
not
says he
valid.
met him holy zeh. He didn't die from the holy. V'nafal habayit alav. Now he's anus apparently. I don't know. Is he anus? I don't know. Or chishon nachash. Or he gives her the get, and then the snake comes and bites him. He died. He didn't die from the holy. So now the question is it a get? Right? He said he met him a holy zeh, but he's anus. He couldn't possibly die from that holy because the snake killed him before the virus killed him. Is that considered honest? You understand? Interesting, very interesting shela. Okay. Again. Zegitech mehayom imeti mecholi zeh v'nafal habayit alav. Oy kishon nachash enoget. There's enoget. Meaning, yesh ta'anat honest apparently. That's what it sounds like, right? Enoget. No, wait, hold on a
No,
second.
no, no get. It's still not a get.
That's an interesting question. Okay, but yes, I understand. All right, let's continue.
How does it even? It doesn't even apply. There's no document. Nothing happens.
Well,
There's a one tonight
had
that he dies from the
had the
holy.
snake not killed him,
Okay,
the sickness would have killed him.
Okay, but
Hold on
one
a
tonight didn't
second.
happen.
And if the sickness killed him, you agree that
It would be a get.
it would be a get. But the reason the sickness
Only
didn't
the
kill
sickness
him.
killed him.
Okay, he was about to die, like his shechim merah, and then comes a snake and bites him.
Sickness didn't kill him.
Okay, that's it. I agree. By the way, you're taking a logical approach. I don't disagree with the logic. Okay, you're right. and therefore, and okay,
No
okay,
get.
fair enough. Let's read the next, the sefa of the Tosefta. If I don't recover from the sickness, same situation. So he says, if I don't recover from the sickness, right? And then the house collapses on him. Or he gets bitten by a snake. In this case, it is a get. So what's the difference between the Resha? In the Resha, what does he say? If I die from the sickness, right? Me'ayom. In the second, in the Sefa, it said what? If I don't recover from the sickness, and I end up dying from the sickness, zegitech me'ayom. And what do we say in the Sefa? How does it get? So the Gemara says, "Ma'ishena le'sham, ma'ishena Sefa."
You never recovered.
Oh, okay, very nice. You're right. By the way, you're very medayek in your understanding of the text. You're correct, by the way. So first of all, I want you to understand the sugya we're about to do is a sugya mishuleshet. We have the Tosefta. We're going to bring a maaseh, and then we're going to bring another maaseh. Those are the three parts of the sugya. I'll believe never if I have time. I'll try to. I must. I shouldn't say if I have time. I must give the sugya. Like I started doing the Surat Dishmata in the first sugya was like Ketuvot. I want to finish that. I also want to do the Surat Dishmata on this sugya. Believe never. Okay, fine. What's the difference? So first of all, Rabbi David Pardo in Hasdei David, he has a very nice perush on the Tosefta, and my father liked him a lot, Rabbi David Pardo. But he writes beautiful, he wrote beautiful pizmonim. Rabbi David Pardo, very amok, in Aramaic, some beautiful bakashot for Shabbat. Anyway, he writes that in the Resha, he said it in a positive way. It was a positive statement. He said, if I shall die from this sickness, then this get is going to be a get. In the Sefa, he says it in the negative. So now the question is, well, why did you say it in the negative? Meaning, and now you can understand the question a little better. Why would you, if you want to tell your wife, this is your get if I die from this sickness, just say, this is your get if I die from this sickness. Why are you telling your wife, this is your get if I don't recover from the sickness?
Cover honest.
Right? So, no. There's a psychology here. You know what the psychology is?
That if anything else kills him, it's still a get.
No, that's not what he was worried about. That would be if he was Tamil Chacham. That's not Tamil Chacham. He just says that. So, it has to do with psychology. Sephardim especially, they were always very superstitious. Lo liftoch pela satan. So lo liftoch pela satan means, you want to be careful. Yeah, I think they have a serene expression, like Bal Tishbi.
It's almost like Sagin Nahor. Don't say the bad way.
Why do we say it like this? Bal Tishbi or Bal, my wife?
Bal Tishbi.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Don't make a shivyon between this.
Yeah, not the gas. Yeah, exactly. Has v'shalom. So we never want to say we never want to say something that can imply that something bad will happen to us. Lo liftoch pela satan, right? And it could be the positive or the negative. Like you could say, "Oh my gosh, you're going to happen." He was crossing the street, he got killed by a car. Crazy, unbelievable. Quiet, don't talk like that. Be a little anava, be a little humble. Or it could be the other way. You don't understand. I just did this deal. I'm going to be like the richest person in the community. You're quiet, like like don't open. We're very superstitious. I'm not expressing. By the way, I've seen situations with people coming to me, so I'm not expressing. This is not like astrology. Astrology, I'm definitely against. I'm against any type of those types of superstition. It's a Sephardic superstition. I actually see it. From all the superstitions, it's what I see. Based on being a rabbi and people coming to me and telling me things. Okay, whatever. Sometimes like people say, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? Like, it's not people used to attack Araman because they said he didn't believe in Shadim, which wasn't true. But it's like, kafar b'shadim, like, kafar b'ma, like b'shadim, I don't know if it's smart to believe in Shadim. Harei ni ma'amin be'emunah shelema sheyesh shadim. Or whatever, it's like, you understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying, it seems to be some credence to lo liftoch pela satan, but if somebody wants to disagree, they may. I won't I won't. My eyes.
So he
won't
meant the
twitch.
same thing both ways. He was just being more careful with his wording.
So now that's the point. So maybe the reason he said im lo imod mechol izeh, because he didn't want to be potach pelas satan. So now you're going to tell me there's a difference between this situation and that situation. You understand? So it's a little subtle. I mean, maybe you're going to say yes, the wording was different. You're not going to say okay, but you understand the problem. All right. So let's continue. We have 2-3 minutes. Let's finish what we can finish. And Ike, when we get to 10 o'clock,
10:01.
what, 10:01? Okay, can we go to 10:05?
Yep.
Yes.
10:05, but 10:05. I don't want to be over on Balut Tosif. Okay. Okay. Shampoo mehatam. Oh, I'm sorry. So, my shena resha or my shena sefa. What's the difference between the resha and the sefa? Shampoo mehatam. Shampoo mitam. Achalo ari en lanu. Okay. So first of all, what does it mean shampoo metam? That's important to understand the technical terminology of the Gemara. Shampoo metam means this is an official response from the Bet Din of Eretz Yisrael to the Chachamim of Babel. Right? So sometimes they would send them a question, and when it says Shalkum Metam or Mitam means this is their official response. So you can bring this response, and this is the official position of the Chachamim of Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Interesting. What is the answer? Achalo Ari. If the guy got devoured by a lion, En Lanu. Okay. Let's think about this. Do you know what the question was? Doesn't say what the question was. All it says, my shana, and then it says, Shakum mitam. Now, we know a few things. The question was not, please explain the Tosefta. Because if the question was, please explain the Tosefta doesn't mention Ari. They're saying, Ari en lanu. We don't know what the law is with Ari, but the Tosefta doesn't mention Ari. So the question that was asked to the Yeshua and Eretz Yisrael was not, can you please explain to us the Tosefta? If that was a question, the answer would not be, Achalo Ari en lanu. Okay. So what's happening? So second point, the answer that they give somehow sheds light on the Tosefta. Meaning, we may not know the question. We know the question was not explained the Tosefta, but somehow the answer they give does shed light on the Tosefta because the Gemara brings it to explain the Tosefta. All right. So conceptually, what the Chachamim from Eretz Yisrael say fits the Tosefta, even though textually it doesn't fit, but conceptually it does fit, and that's what the Gemara is saying. Shakum mitam, achalo ari en lanu. Okay. It appears that the question was something along the lines of Harazegitech mehayom, right? Im I don't know, no bat im lo meti mechol izeh. Utrafo ari mahu. Right? Same question, except instead of a snake, lion. It appears, and on this question, the Bet Din says, we don't have the laws of Ari. Interesting. Okay. So, the Tosefta, let's stop here. Okay, let's stop here. There's a lot, I just want to introduce you to the problem. There's some very subtle points here that Berlina, that next week, we will continue studying Torah, and then the real question is, what do we do on Chol Hamoed Pesach? Do we study Torah on Chol Hamoed Pesach, or do we not study Torah on Chol Hamoed Pesach? I have to check the Yalkut Yosef, see what he says.
Version 3, check.
What?
The third version, check.
The third version. Do we study Torah on Chol Hamoed Pesach or not? I don't know.
All the yeshivas are closed.
All the
so I guess
yeshivas,
not.
that's what I mean, it's a shayla. If we study Torah on Chol Hamoed Pesach,
Tifrosh min Sibur.
it's about the Poresh min Sibur, and Marisayin, and you're correct Tagar on their Torah is not good, yours is better, not better. You have to think, it's not a simple question.
The gadol's in the zoo with the kids, how is he going to be teaching?
So we have to, all these questions, we'll try to solve them next time. All right, any questions from the online, from the Zoom thing, or any comments or questions before we...
One comment. So we are construing the would say Rava, or the way we perceive Rava through Rav Asher in the first part. But I think that Rav Ahai, for the Ika de Amre here, he would, because the only words we have is Ika de Amre, Amar Rava, Bechen le'anyan gitin. For Rav Ahai, who says, En ones v'nisu'in,
Right.
say here in Gitin, Rava agrees with him and his view on Nisu'in. So that makes sense, but we're not doing it that way. The Alma in each case of the first version of Rava and the Ika de Amre is according to our Leficha.
Right.
Rava doesn't accept that, but he still could construe this Ika de Amre as the more correct one because it's the second one, right? He would
Yeah.
say, and it is exactly opposite with his version of the Ika de Amre, Ika de Ba'alim and Ba'ayan, his Peshita V'Ba'aya in the first half of the Sugya. So
Right.
he's also consistent. It's like relativity. From each different frame of reference, there's a consistent understanding of the Sugya. We don't agree with Rava Hai, but he's not crazy or wrong. He's wholly consistent with this Ika de Amre.
Interesting. That's a very nice observation. Okay. Okay, good. So thank you for that. Gentlemen, chazakim u'beruchim.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we will reconvene next week.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
We'll bring the macaroons.
Okay. All right. Wow. It worked. Somehow. This thing worked. It was like, it was on me. I saw the camera. It was interesting. They must have some special motion because it was like kind of zooming on
Oh
me.
yeah, it senses your face.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, mamash pele. I thought you weren't coming this week. No?
No, I the change of plan. It's
I got it.
next week. I
got
probably
it.
won't be
Okay.
able to, but yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
No, a bunch of people told me they can't come this